What's going on, everybody? B. Scott here with you, and on today's show, we got your waiver wires ahead of Week 7. Week 6, almost in the books. We got a Monday Night Football game tonight against the Buffalo Bills versus Tennessee Titans. Should be a great game, hopefully, but I got some waiver players. Obviously, there's tons and tons of injuries, so I got some players that you should be looking at ahead of the bye weeks to hopefully help bolster your roster. So keep it locked and loaded right here at the first 4 downs. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. B. Scott here with you, and we're going over the waiver wire ahead of Week 7. Obviously, we got one more game tonight, but that's all right. We're going to be looking ahead to Week 7, getting you ready to bolster your rosters for those bye weeks, some injuries, things like that. So before we get to today's content, don't forget, like the video, subscribe, share, thumb bell, all that good stuff, and then comment. If there's a player I didn't mention, because I don't have a ton of them here, if there's a player that you want to hear more about or ask a question about, possibly thinking about wavering, drop in the comment section. I'll be glad to get back to you. So let's dive right into it. I got one quarterback this week I like, and that's going to be Carson Wentz. Plain and simple. Owned in 35% of leagues, 2+ touchdowns in 4 of 6 games, 3 straight games with 2 touchdowns, only has 1 interception on the season. He's played well, and his plays continued to get better and better. Only 11 completions yesterday he needed to finish off the easy Houston Texans. I don't know what's happening there, but the next 4 games for Carson Wentz, he's got plus matchups, plain and simple. San Francisco 49ers, that defense doesn't scare me. The Tennessee Titans, the New York Jets, the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's the next 4 for Carson Wentz. Obviously, you're dealing with a lot of bye weeks, some injuries. So Carson Wentz is a name that I like as a potential streamer this week, even against that San Francisco 49ers defense. So that's the only quarterback I really like this week as a true decent quarterback option going forward. So let's look at some wide receivers. There's not a lot of names that I'd like to mention, honestly, this week. There's a few boom guys that you want to take chances on. That's fine. Kendrick Bourne had the big long play touchdown. That's just production you can't guarantee on a weekly basis. So I got a few guys that I wrote down. If these players were dropped in your league, these are guys you should be picking up, plain and simple, going forward. So first up, Jalen Waddle. Owned in 66% of leagues. Still available in over 30% of leagues in Yahoo at least. In 2 full games with Tua. 18 targets. 14 receptions for 131 yards, 3 touchdowns. I told you to start him last week. He's one of the only reliable options in that pass offense. And the Miami Dolphins, that defense is not good. Tua's going to have to probably be throwing the ball at a decent rate, plain and simple, going forward. They don't know how to establish the run in that offense. And I like Jalen Waddle, plain and simple, to soak up targets in the offense. Always a touchdown threat in the red zone as well. So Jalen Waddle, if he's available in your leagues, this is a guy you should be picking up. First waiver, in my opinion. The next guy I'm going to talk about, Sterling Shepard. Owned in 52% of leagues. Obviously coming off an injury. And you know what? We already talked about it. Daniel Jones, it's his favorite target, plain and simple. He's averaging nearly 10 targets a game in the games that he's played. All the pass catchers are hurt. Kadarius Toney went down in that game. Kenny Golladay already missing time. Darius Slayton ruled out before the game. And 14 targets. That's what Sterling Shepard had yesterday. 10 receptions, 76 yards. He's a guy going forward that you should have rostered, plain and simple. This Giants team, yeah, it's kind of a mess. Don't get me wrong. But there's value in Sterling Shepard. He's getting so many targets that he's worth a flex option every single week. So pick up Sterling Shepard if he's available in your league. And I got a couple mentions. Tim Patrick, I've talked about him for weeks and weeks. Still only owned in 35% of leagues. 6+ targets in 3 straight games. He's at Cleveland, Washington, Dallas. All 3 secondaries that really don't scare me. And the Denver Broncos defense, it's almost non-existent. I don't know what happened. It's fallen apart over the last couple weeks. And Tim Patrick, Teddy Bridgewater's going to have to be throwing the football. And I like Tim Patrick as an option. He's a red zone threat, and he's getting it done on a weekly basis. And then Darnell Mooney is a good stream option this week on the road against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The secondary's terrible. We've seen it. Now, yes, you got to weather the storm with Justin Fields at starting quarterback, but I like Darnell Mooney as a potential streamer this week for the wide receiver position. Now on to the running backs. I got 3 running backs that I really like this week. Alex Collins will be one of them. I'll mention him because I forgot to mention him last week, to be honest. Chris Carson was out, so he's on only 60% of leagues right now. Had a great day. Over 100 yards and a touchdown on a Pittsburgh Steelers defense that just doesn't give up a lot of points to running backs. The first touchdown on the year to a running back. He's averaging 4.7 yards per carry on the season, Alex Collins is. And Chris Carson is out at least till week 10 and potentially longer. We really don't know. There's a lot of mysteries around a neck injury that no one really knows about. There's no clarity at all. They got New Orleans and Jacksonville next 2 coming up. Not necessarily great matchups, but Alex Collins is playing well. Plain and simple. I'd be starting him. Geno Smith didn't necessarily look great. I get it. It was on the road against Pittsburgh. But Alex Collins is a man going forward that I definitely like. Should be rostered in all of leagues, plain and simple, as a decent RB2 option on a weekly basis. Then, Dearness Johnson. We got to talk about him because Kareem Hunt, down with the calf injury. There's already talks he could potentially miss 3 to 6 weeks, something like that. That's a lot of time. And then the Nick Chubb injury. We know it's a calf. We don't know how severe it is, and we don't know how long he's going to be out. He's out this week. He could be back next week. But if Kareem Hunt's out, they don't necessarily love to lean on one running back if they don't have to. And Dearness Johnson, if both these running backs are out, just the pure volume, that's probably what he's going to be looking at as the early down workhorse. He's got some tough matchups. Denver, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, all defenses that are pretty decent against the running backs, but all of them were not very good just yesterday against the running backs. So Dearness Johnson going forward, obviously, if he's getting the bulk of the work, a potential low-end RB2 option if both those running backs were to be out. And then in that same breath, Demetric Felton, that's his name, explosive pass catcher. He's a little smaller on the Cleveland Browns. And, he's made some plays in the pass game. We don't know what that is going to shake out to be, but just another name to mention going forward, just in case Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt both seem to miss a lot of time going forward. And then Ramondre Stevenson, 11% owned. I've talked about him a few times. I think I talked about him a little last week. I'm going to talk about him again. 5 carries for 23 yards and a touchdown, 3 receptions for 39 yards. He's got the New York Jets and the LA Chargers on the next 2 games, and he's moving in the right direction to overtake Brandon Bolden for that pass-catching work, plain and simple. So I like Ramondre Stevenson going forward, and if Damian Harris were to miss time, we know he's dealt with injuries in the past. If he was to be hurt and miss some time, Ramondre Stevenson would be an automatic RB2 start, plain and simple. So he's a guy I think you should be looking at rostering as well. And then a couple mentions, or actually just one mention, that's Devontae Freeman. Now, yes, not a pretty name, and he's on the Baltimore Ravens, and he's old and a little bit washed, but I'll tell you right now, he looks more explosive than Latavius Murray and Le'Veon Bell, plain and simple. And going in with the Baltimore Ravens, who like to run the football, who sometimes are going to establish that run. We saw it yesterday, 9 carries, 53 yards, and a touchdown from Devontae Freeman. He just looks better than Latavius Murray, and I think potentially going forward, he could overtake him on that early down role, plain and simple. So just a mention in a deeper league, a guy that you might want to be picking up or looking at in case you are really, really hurting at the running back position. So now we can talk about some tight ends. Ricky Seals-Jones, I've talked about him a couple times. I'm going to talk about him again. 6 targets, 4 catches, 58 yards, and a touchdown. The target share is just going to be there. The Washington defense is terrible, and you need a tight end that's going to see the most volume possible. He's a talented enough receiver to get it done, and he's seeing 6+ targets. So Ricky Seals-Jones must be added. Potential top 10 to 12 tight end on a weekly basis just based on the volume alone. Zach Ertz, another guy, traded to the Arizona Cardinals. 4 catches, 29 yards, touchdown. Still has some juice left in the tank. My only concern is the Arizona Cardinals have a ton of talent, plain and simple. They got 4 receivers that are all talented. They have running backs out of the backfield and catch the passes. How much is Zach Ertz going to be needed on a weekly basis? We saw Max Williams was playing great in a couple starts. He had the few of his starts, he had some boom games and some bust games. Can Zach Ertz establish himself as a 5 to 6 target a week guy? We'll have to wait and see going forward. But if obviously he's a starting tight end on a high-powered offense, you got to be picking up Zach Ertz, plain and simple. And then this week, I like CJ Uzomah as a stream. Now, last week he caught a touchdown late in that game. This week, going against the Baltimore Ravens team that's given up pretty much the most fantasy points to the tight end position, them and the Houston Texans. So CJ Uzomah, a good stream option at the tight end position this week. So that's it. That's the waiver wire. Not too many players, to be honest, and at this point, if you're looking for waivers to save your team, it might just be too late. But so, once again, like the video. If you like the video, subscribe, share, thumb bell, all that good stuff. And comment. If there's a player you want to hear more about, just drop in the comment section. I'll be glad to get back to you. And then obviously, the next couple days, I'll have all your start sits out and all that good stuff going forward. So for the first 4 downs, it's been B. Scott, and I'm out.